we will need a legislation, to that effect, and it can't just happen. So
Absolutely,
let's just take it as one of those, very, very awesome policies.
Yeah, I personally don't like the way that Nigerian political office holders and and the likes simply just take advantage of the fact that they have control or they have some power and want to bully everyone into what they desire. There should be a conversation about it. If you want to go that route, then let there be a conversation about it in the State House of Assembly. Let the people decide.
It would be very catastrophic, even if, the gun to other paths. So for every time, because we always have government saying, oh, we want to do this, and then you're not looking, it's like saying, we're still having the argument of whether government should take away subsidy. We won't take away subsidy, but what provisions have we made? What have we put in place? Right? Do we have functional refineries? So before you come out as a governor or you come out as a political office holder to say, oh, let's get all the, street prostitutes out of the road. Let's stop street prostitution. And what have you, nightclubs? What have you put in place? What are they going to fall back to? Because like I said, apart from the fact that, it could be pleasure for some people, it's also a serious economic, necessity. And that's because government has failed. Society has failed to provide the basic. And that's why people have resorted to, finding a way to survive.
In my opinion, I personally don't see that as a genuine enough reason to get into that space. But I understand it.
For a lot of people, for a lot of people, that's the reason that you're on the street. Trust me.
I wouldn't. I've never been there, but I'm saying.
My
point is, I personally wouldn't agree that. It's a genuine enough reason, the economy. Then they can have a conversation on how to clean up those areas. You can't shut down people's business. I have continuously said that because it has been illegal, in certain places across the world, people finding a way around it have made it more dangerous. And it pretty much will make the same or will be the same thing with, when you simply just ban something without considering these other aspects. But I'm sure that the people of Rivers State will, get into that conversation. Maybe the State House of Assembly will also be able to look into some of these things. The governor of the state would also maybe reconsider, the ban, mostly because of how it will affect businesses. The nightclub business in Port Harcourt, because that's not going anywhere. It's not going away at all. And the amount of businesses that will be affected would also be dangerous to the economy of Port Harcourt somehow. Federation, who has been revealing a lot of mismanagement of funds from the National Assembly and other aspects. Our next top trending story is going to the Nigerian Police Force, where the Auditor General's office has once again declared that there is some level of misuse of ammunition and funds. The report from the Auditor General revealed that 178,459 rifles and ammunition have been declared missing and unaccounted for, dating as far back as January 2020. It's, of course, contained in its latest query, which was released on the 15th of September 2021. It goes on to say that the audit observed from the review of arms movement register, monthly return of arms and ammunition 2020. We've spoken numerous times about arms proliferation and the inflow of arms into Nigeria across the country, and how Nigeria has millions and millions of arms that are really just unaccounted for. But now we're hearing that it is, there's also a problem in the Nigerian police force where 178,000 weapons have been missing between 2018 and 2020. It is stunning, to say the least. It makes you also wonder where these weapons have gone. Who's currently in possession of these weapons.
So, it's very scary. That's number one. The fact that you want to begin to look at the parts, the face that we're as a country, the rate of crime and criminality. And so just imagine, because right now we probably don't have the answers. So it would just be question. So imagine 178,459 firearms in the hands of unguarded, how do you can't control criminal elements across. So just imagine, the rate of the fact that we're being punished, because constantly we are responsible for this, but as usual, it's Nigeria, and that would always be the phrase, nothing will happen, nothing has happened, and we're not worried that we have this number of firearms unaccounted for. We're done. No, it's quite
silent about it, so long. I understand that every now and then you hear of robbers attacking police officers and taking their weapons, but not 178,000, and that's definitely...
That's almost like
just,
200,000.
Yeah,
and then we're looking at the police
a
force of
small
about
percentage.
400,000 or thereabout.
You can imagine. But it also mentioned that 3.22 billion naira is also, lost, and unaccounted for, and was given to contractors, and there was no verification or no, paperwork to show where these funds were paid to or who these funds were paid to or what contracts they were paid for, also from the Nigerian police force. Luckily, we have, an extended conversation about this sometime around 8:30 this morning, so look out for it. We'll take a short break, and when we come back, we're kicking off with Off the Press, where we share the major stories making headlines across.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there's regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on Plus TV Africa as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Hello and welcome to Space and Style, a property show designed to connect various stakeholders across the property value chain. We can also provide realistic solutions and deepen your knowledge about the interesting world of real estate. We shall showcase architectural design, interior design trends, lifestyle and real-time property news updates, and the right way to navigate through property development and investment. Join me every week on this channel as I take you through
your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on Plus TV Africa.
In the 21st century,
what is clear? The board caption, and you have several riders: postpone convention, ruin your legacy. P. Buhari, governors, and Northern Elders Mon. This is some of the headlines on the Leadership newspaper this morning.
All right, and to the Punch newspapers. New Year celebrations. Experts project high infection rate as Nigerians shun protocols at fun spots. Uncontrolled crowds at beaches and others to fuel community transmission, experts warn. Recovery rate drops by 73.2%. NCDC distributes 400,000 COVID-19 testing kits. Also, Lagos train service will begin this year, says Governor Sanwo-Olu. We can also find here police go after revelers behind attack on Teni in the Rivers community. We can also find here men exchange blows, arrested as hired killer fails 23. Sustained bombings, force terrorists to surrender, ACF tells military. Nigeria's debts vulnerable and costly, alerts the World Bank. Customs and immigration and others fail to remit 127 billion naira, says an audit report. Those are the big stories on the Punch newspapers this morning.
Away from the Punch newspapers, let's also check out the Nigerian Tribune. Looking at the Nigerian Tribune, the banner caption says, governors to watch in 2022. I mean, you have, that's a pictorial representation of that. APC convention, Governors Forum, DG Ford's Kalu's call for postponement. And you also have Caution Boni's committee says it's a plot to destabilize party. Ibadan High Chief meets Lekon Balogun, endorses him as next Olubadan. And just before we move away from Nigerian Tribune this morning, former NRC presidential candidate Toffer dies. He is also Abiola's opponent. I mean, talking about Bashir Toffer, who dies at 74. Might just be dominating all of the papers. Impact of cash crunch on economy worsens than COVID-19. 2022, expert sets agenda for economic growth and development. And that's the much we can take this morning on the Nigerian Tribune.
To the Daily Independent now, Southern governors divided on zoning 2023 presidency. Also 2023, APC working on a lie that will return PDP to Tofa. One shot dead as police foil attempt to burn Imo Monarch's palace. And IPAC backs Buhari, says direct primary, we're still in this, alive. And
went through that period till the death of MK Abiola. Later, Bashir Tofa remained aloof and just left politics. And that in itself added to what some of us learned before he even came into. Had him many times. He's so rest in peace. He has gone to rest. And Nigeria is left for the rest of us and our leaders to do the needful. So it's okay. 74, not too old, but at least for whatever he has achieved within. And he was a very successful businessman. Very, very successful businessman. And he's so rest in peace.
Not very often you hear of Nigerian politicians come.
Not for making money. For some people, politics is business. To him, politics wasn't business. He probably came out to serve, and when he didn't get the opportunity, he decided he wasn't he was never a governor. He was never a deputy governor. He was never a senator. And also, I know he was never a House of Reps member. I don't know whether on other little or smaller areas of politics, whether he was, but he was never. In fact, his name was shocking when he came out in 1993 as the flag bearer of NRS. And I remember vividly I think it was that election that we started having televised presidential debate on television. Then the NTA, network, he invited Chief Abiola himself. I think Sylvester Ugo was one of the vice presidential candidate, one other person, and it was a nice debate. But as I said, after the election, the man just decided to just go back to his business, and he was not heard from. Very good one, very nice gentleman, and may he so rest in peace, as I've always said.
Okay, away from that, let's look at the leadership newspaper. The confusion that seems to be going on with the APC and her national convention ahead of the 2023 election. One would say that, yes, it shouldn't matter, but that's a ruling party. What are your thoughts? The leadership says pressure mounts on APC leaders to shift national convention.
It should matter. It should matter because APC is a leading political party in Nigeria, and it's also the political party in power now. So anything that affects APC affects the country. So if they've not been able to put their hands together, just local government to the state congresses, to the other congresses and the rest of them, what congresses, it has been one problem or the other. And you have seen several, even in the states where ordinarily you just think that APC would have just had a blank check. We were having factions in most of the states, even Lagos State, where we are presently, that you think that is a stronghold of APC. They had factions and the rest of them. And a reconciliatory committee was set up, led by former Nasarawa State Governor. The formation of APC, it's just a formation of people with several political parties, different interests and interests, and it's that interest that is still dragging within this thing. Those from the, you remember the days of PDP? Yes. You remember then AD, the CPC led by President Buhari, and the rest of the ANPP too. But today, you come to realize that that problem is there. And everything is about 2023, who is going to fly the presidential ticket of the party, who is going to be the governors in the states and the rest of them. So they are pulling themselves from, and it has been established, even within their members, that the current interim committee that is running the party ought not to be. Because if you listen to what some of the key members of this, like someone like Festus who has been kicking from us, said that this current easy way that PDP resolve his problem.
So could you also because I mean some people are insinuating that with all of this is happening, the problem might just be playing, into the hands of the PDP ahead of the 2023 elections.
Well, whichever one they play into, that's a problem. But the main problem is that there are some very, very, very fantastic big, so-called big shots within the party who feels that the party is being taken away from them and who feel that they are being marginalized, that they are not going to be given the opportunity to participate fully in the 2020. And the gladiators, we don't need to start mentioning them.
Is there a reason they may have ignored Festus Keyamo?
Well, they believe that Festus Keyamo, that initially Festus Keyamo wasn't more of a politician, but now he's not a politician. And they also believe that Festus Keyamo has some interest in the politics in Delta. Some felt that Festus Keyamo wants to go for the governorship of Delta come 2023. He has a running battle with the deputy president of the Senate, who seems to be the leader of the party in the state, and that is where the issue. So most often than not, you might not be able to see them taking such advice. And also, you have seen instances where other senior advocates of Nigeria, who are members of the political parties, people like the AGF and the rest of them, have come to counter the issues raised by Festus Keyamo. So APC in itself is just a house divided against itself, and I hope that they'll be able to put their house together this year. It just has to be this year, because campaign will start this year. Election is just next year. So they must pick their various candidates, both for presidential, and that is going to be a huge challenge. And why it is getting this bad is because the only person that knits the party together, President Muhammadu Buhari, is not coming back in 2023. So it's more difficult for them now. If the rally point has always been, if Buhari is coming for a second time, then they won't have these issues they're having. Of course, they already know that they have their presidential candidate. But now it's going to be
just to mention that loyalty to the party.
Maybe we have to know Oshibajo is also being backed by some people. Then the issue first and foremost is that where is the presidential ticket going to? As elongated to a year, and the year can just screen down to leaders so that they can start their campaign and the representation of Nigerians. We're talking about the issue of insecurity. That is one of the fundamental reasons why President Buhari was voted in 2015. You're talking of the economy.
Actually act. A few days ago, we spoke about the president, urging for a probe on the NDDC and the billions of naira that have passed through the NDDC that don't seem to have gotten anywhere. We've also spoken about the Auditor General of the Federation, claiming that 9 billion naira seems to have gone unaccounted for, missing from the National Assembly. We also spoke this morning about 3.22 billion naira, that has gone to ghost contractors in the Nigerian police force. On the Punch this morning, it says here, Customs, Immigration, 13 others failed to remit 127 billion naira from an audit report. Why is this stereotype, situation in Nigeria, where you hear of these staggering amounts of money that seem to be unaccounted for, missing or unremitted and the likes, and we just move on?
Because we're not doing the needful. What is the needful? The ability to be able to arrest and thoroughly prosecute people that have been fingered to engage in corruption, and that in itself a problem. Or we go halfway and we just let them go. And part of the problem is with our graph agencies and our security agencies. They don't seem to do a thorough job, because even if you get somebody arrested and you take him to the court and you cannot be able to put forward enough evidence to be able to prosecute, it becomes a problem. Yeah. So that in itself can be very, very frustrating at a point. But I've always said that until we begin to do the needful, making sure that people that have been fingered and have been, look at you're talking about the end, and remember what happened during the probe at the National Assembly.
Yes.
You're off the mic and on the mic. Remember those drama and that Nollywood act that happened. And after that, then the House of Reps just kept quiet and just packed up the probe until the president set up a forensic committee.
But how does the country move forward, like this? How do we tell ourselves that we're fighting corruption and we just move forward, when we see these things play out?
We cannot move forward. We cannot move forward. We cannot move forward because a situation where you continue to say that people are not taken, are not prosecuted, it becomes, until you make an example of people. It's not the kind of this thing we are doing. It's just this pocket of one or two. Just make an example of people, irrespective of whatever they are. There have instances where they've tried once in a while to try to pick up some politicians and rest of them. But we're not going to the details of, when you say that you have an investigation has been carried out, there are so many panels that we are set up. There are so many investigations that there are so many recommendations that have been made. But rather, what do you see? You see a poor man that goes to steal 5,000 naira, give 10,000 naira, and rest of them. You see them being prosecuted, being paraded by police and rest of them. How many of these people have been paraded by police? It's true. How many of them, these high-profile people, have been paraded by the police? And I also believe that the problem is also with our judicial system. We need to work on our judicial system because most of these corrupt leaders have so much financial war chest to fight back. They hire the best of sons and the rest of them, and at the end of it, they get away free. Then we also go, there are instances we are even going into the issue of plea bargain with some of them. And you say, oh, plea bargain is for us to be able to, but you also go, because in plea bargain is a win-win situation. You say, oh, I've stolen 150 billion. Can we have about 100 billion? You can take the remaining 50. Oh, exactly. And just get away. So that is the issue. So I think that this issue, and I thought that the President Muhammadu Buhari, in his promise in 2015 that he was going to fight corruption, stand still. I just saw him, I just see him fighting and sitting down. There's no standstill, there's no standing. The way it is even worse.
It's a different case if you say fighting, sitting, or fighting, standing. And then some other people would argue that there's no fighting at all.
That is what I'm saying. I'm saying that I've not seen anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just re-emphasizing what you say. There's nothing seems to happen. And I can tell you that if for whatever reason, if this government, this APC government fails to win the election in 2023, you will see this kind of worm that will be unearthed by another particular party comes in, just like happened with the NSA and rest of them. Yes, I believe that it could be worse when it comes to after this present government leaves. And that is the way we roll. And we continue moving as if nothing happens. And that is why the international community doesn't take us seriously. On a daily basis, we are going and borrowing billions and billions of naira from China, from all over the world, that we are going to channel. Even some of those money that we are supposed to channel into this, I can assure you that some of these have been preferred by some government agencies and individuals, and they cannot be accounted for it. I know that some projects are going on, but I can tell you for free that all the money that has been, we are collecting and the rest of them from each of these countries, I don't think that all of them have been checked. And it is where the president needs. And because the buck stops at the table of the president, is the CEO, is the managing director of Nigeria, as it were, as a project. And you cannot be a managing director and wait for your company to run. Nigeria is running down, and we're doing nothing about it.
Okay. Let's quickly share your thoughts on this one. It's on the Daily Independent. Southern governors divided on zoning 2023 presidency. Now, this is, earlier on, those Southern governors had agreed that no political party should file any candidate, from the northern part of the country. And they seem to, go back on their words. They're no longer on the same page where they started from.
It's expected. Don't forget that there's nowhere in the Constitution that is written that the president must come from the north or come from the south, and the rest. It's just a gentleman arrangement. Kaduna State have stayed same, and the rest of them. So, but whichever way, the problem we're going to have, when I started, I said the issue will also be if it's zoned to the south, where will it go to? And that is where the problem is going to be. So it's left for the major political parties and other political parties to make sure that, okay, it is the time of the South. Even some feel that, some people are even, some school of thought are even saying that these two major political parties should just only to the Southeast. Some people have that school of thought that, oh, okay, Southwest have had their share, South have had their share, that between 1999 and now, that the Southeast is only a zone within the South that have not gotten that. But you cannot sit down and just be waiting for political office to be just dropped on your table. You must work for it. If you want it to come to the Southeast, what are the Southeast leaders doing to be able to attract other parts of the country to support them in the North? Because your vote in Southeast alone cannot win you presidential election. Even the whole of the South cannot win you. You also need the North to be able to succeed. So are they getting across to also the northern leaders, the northern elite, the northern people and the rest of them, so that whatever person that eventually emerges from the South will have the support of other parts of the country for us to be. Because whether you like it or not, there is no way, if you put the whole vote of the South together,
it still wouldn't give
you the presidency. It wouldn't.
We need to go, but in 20 seconds, I just wanted you to respond to, people who would say that from the conversations we're having with regards to 2023, it's pretty obvious that Nigeria is not interested in actually choosing quality over, and putting people in power that will actually move the country forward. We're still looking for personal interest, looking for religious interest, looking for political interest, and not actually people who will move Nigeria forward.
I would say this, from 1999, even from 1979, most of the presidents or leaders that we had are people that were not willing to come out. Most of the time, we forced them. It's true. That's what they always say. Start from Shagari, 79. Shagari was a teacher before he became a politician. He was saying, oh, that he was not this thing, blah, blah. He became a president. We saw what happened. Let's even leave the, what do you call them? Let us even leave the military guys. 1999. Obasanjo wasn't the best of the candidates. It was the military that forced Obasanjo on us. The person that came after him, what happened? Yar'Adua was saying he was retiring after being a governor in Katsina State. He wants to go back to his farm and teach whatever he wants to do. They forced him to, they forced him. From there, a good Lord Jonathan, just from Bayelsa State, the man said he wasn't interested, it wasn't that he wanted to be president. They moved in and said, okay, take over from him. And that is what has been. Buhari, to a large extent, will say, okay, for about four or five times, he tried it and he finally succeeded. But so at the end of it all, you come to realize that those that are willing, you know why? They will not give opportunity for the young people that are willing to serve. Because if the person comes, he will change the status quo from what they're used to. There are so many fantastic young people that wanted to run in 2019. You saw them, very, very qualified. I don't need to start mentioning them. But are we going to give them so they are on to be able to dissect this issue of Godfatherism and some people that are always imposing, and that is why someone like me supported the idea of the direct or indirect primaries that are that was passed by the National Assembly. But you see what happened. Some people with some godfathers within the parties have tried to hijack that and make sure that the president decided. You know what that would have given? It would have given an opportunity for us to come up with people that are so willingly, and not just people that will be handpicked by some individual. But we're going back that route again because the National Assembly definitely, when they resume, will expunge that aspect of it in order to pass the electoral. Right. We'll continue going this route.
Chris Wanda, thank you very much for joining us once again and for starting off the year with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
This is where we wrap up with Off the Press.
Whether you like it or not, the dryness and dust is coming. And this time, it might not give up that easily. But do the people have the power to shake it off?
Well, of course they do, and you do too. Kick dry skin to the curb and get smooth, intensely nourished skin.
With everyone so busy these days,
it will be fine.
Suddenly, feels like I'm gonna fall. I can see all of my dreams so perfectly.
Oh, yeah, line up! Single file!
Love's not a dream at all. Somebody.
Grandpa, what was Grandma like?
She always found ways to bring us all together. It took me a while to discover how she does it.
Devon King's taste that brings us all together. I used to care for the world's opinion. I used to beg for validation. But the fire that burned in me was hotter, and the passion that lived in me had a voice of its own. So I stopped waiting and started to act. I stopped fearing and started to live. And when they thought I would fail, I stepped into my power.
Because my time is now.
Amstel Malta, be your best.
Welcome once again to the breakfast on Plus TV Africa. Our first major conversation this morning is on Nigeria's. All right. Every now and then we hear about Nigeria attending conferences and being a part of agreements. Millennium Development Goals, COP21 and COP26 and the likes. I'm sure a little bit, a part of us, would always question, what relevance we actually offer to these conferences.
Okay, thank you. I think that's more things like hydro, wind, solar, and what have you. So, from what I've just said, it's clear that countries like Nigeria, which are, for example, in terms of revenue generation, depend a lot on oil and gas. In terms of also of power consumption, also consume a lot of oil and oil-based products. And also natural gas used primarily as a source of power generation. It's clear that this transition is going to have implications.
Talking about the fact that countries of the world are now saying yes, we are moving away and we're looking at very clean energy come 2050. But if you want to juxtapose our continent, the sub-Saharan Africa, we're looking at 0.6%. So do you think that, it's fair for us to, to be part of this kind of conversation?
Yes, I think the key thing is that this is a global energy transition. So it's actually the whole world that is moving along this route. And the key thing is Africa say that we are not going to protect
fairness. Of course, you also want to talk about inclusiveness. I'm saying if you look at these countries, developed countries, they emit most of, these gases that are polluting the environment. Comparing to, if you want to compare that to Africa or sub-Saharan Africa or even Nigeria, we're not even emitting as much as they are emitting. And so in terms of the percentage, because we also have a situation where there would be compulsory 40% and then, 25%, without any condition. So I'm asking, is that fair enough, or should we be looking at negotiating, for lesser reduction?
Yeah, I think the declared thing is going to be that this is where the whole world is going. And Nigeria as an entity, given where we have very, very little wiggle room as a country, where we do not have the negotiation power as much as it's possible to say, okay, we're not going to do this. Excuse me, we are not a China. And we cannot go back and say, no, in the real politics, in the global stage, this is not fair is not an argument. You have to sit down and say, what is my own interest here? Where is the put going? Where is the ball going? How do I make sure that by the time the ball gets to that point, I as a country am ready? Of course, I can sit down and fight for one or two things for myself to ensure that this works. But at the end of the day, as I said, the global energy transition is also not coming up as a result of just people just say, okay, this is going to be better. There are things which are happening in our environment, global climate change, which is affecting everywhere. If you look at the coastlines in Nigeria, if you look at the Sahara, if you look at the various parts of the world, the seasons are changing, the environment is changing, global temperature is rising up. So it's affecting everybody, whether you are in Nigeria or you are in Siberia. So the key thing really at the end of the day is for us to actually sit down and say, this is where the world is going. This is where the people who are buying my oil, this is where the people who are buying my gas, this is where they're going to be getting their energy from in the next 20, 25, 30 years. What do I need to do as a country to sit down now, have a plan, I'll work that plan. But to sit down and say, oh, it's not fair, that's not how the world works. The world doesn't work like that.